speaking to your audience is really important. Like when my 5-year-old is going to ask me about where babies come from, that story is going to be very different from the not like the uncomfortable conversation I'm going to have with my 15-year-old that I'm really not looking forward to, but no, I have to have, right?
Yeah.
Like it's the same topic. My values and my sensibilities are infused in both stories and in both uncomfortable conversations for me, but they're calibrated to the audience of a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old.
Welcome to Creative Health Tech, your dose of strategic creativity from the minds pushing the boundaries of the health tech industry. We are your hosts, Raff and Felippe Silveira, founders of
In
Mold.
these episodes, we are diving into the fine balance between tech and humanity in Medtech branding and positioning. So joining us today is Kelly MacDonald, founder and brand strategist at BraveTale, an agency helping healthcare and Medtech businesses transform complex ideas into brands that connect and inspire. So Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, a pleasure. As we like to start here, tell our audience a bit about you, your career, and why you decided to build a brand agency focused on health tech businesses.
Well, actually, I like this question because it's sort of building out a brand agency for specifically for health tech and med tech and healthcare innovation was really a full circle moment for me. When I was at university, I was an English major and a history major, and I loved it. And I did my master's degree in the history of medicine, which is a seemingly completely useless degree that I swear to God I use almost every day now. And one of the things that made me really interested in the history of medicine is that when you start to look at how people treat the physical body, it actually gives you a better sense of the society's cultural beliefs, their ideals, and their values. So by looking at the way we treat the physical body, we learn so much about the social body. And that was something I was always fascinated
Nice.
with. And from that point, after I graduated with a master's degree in the history of medicine, somehow, I don't know, I worked for some health organizations in their communications department. And then I ended up talking my way into my first marketing job. And I did
Hmm.
that for several years. And then at a certain point, I also moved into higher learning. And in Quebec, there's a system called the CEGEP system. So I actually became a college teacher, but I was all the while doing copywriting and building out my brand agency. And at a certain point, that, that business got so big that I left academia and built out BraveTale completely. We started in the professional service space and the B2B space. And when we decided to niche down, the funniest part about it was that it was my business partner, Michelle, the graphic design side of BraveTale, who said, I really love these health innovation companies we've worked with. We should niche down to health innovation. And I don't even know why I didn't suggest that myself because it made so much sense given
Yeah.
my background.
Yeah.
It totally made sense. Because the reason why we love working with these health innovation companies is that we actually get to see how these individuals are improving health, changing health outcomes, but we also see the broader social implications for that, the broader cultural implications for improving health. So I feel very aligned with that community. And I also feel that I can help them achieve their mandate when it comes to be improving health and healthcare for individuals and systems.
It's interesting that for many marketing companies or creative studios like us, for example, it's not usual to start right with health and health tech. It's more like, okay, we're gonna work with all kinds of brands and
Yeah.
something pull us to this space. And it's
Yeah.
funny that for you was not like, okay, it's obviously gonna be health.
Yeah.
Was
No.
more Michelle bringing this, right?
I think really what she was picking up on is that when we were building out those brands, I was clearly more invested and more jazzed
Yeah,
about it
yeah,
maybe,
yeah.
and so there is
Mhm.
that pull, but also you're dealing with innovators who are very, very mission driven. We, really love the fact that they have science-backed solutions, and
Yeah,
it's not to say that other people we've worked with weren't mission driven or had a clear purpose, but in healthcare and health tech, it's a little bit more obvious and it's inspiring because we can see how
yeah,
it can help people in real and meaningful ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
this is great.
And like thinking about like your career with BraveTale and all the companies that you have worked before and to right now, how like which one do you feel that like kind of the biggest challenges there this kind of client usually faces?
So it's kind of interesting when we meet science founders or when we meet these companies. Oftentimes, they're coming to us because an investor and a consultant has told them that they need to get their website in order and get their messaging lined up. The founder doesn't see the challenge. They don't see that as
Yeah.
being a problem. And the reason why they don't see their branding or their messaging or their website as being the problem is because they're dealing with so many other challenges. I think all founders, all entrepreneurs are dealing with, waves and waves and waves of challenges. And for health tech founders, it's more like a tsunami after a tsunami after a tsunami, right? They've got to think about first the technology. How are they going to validate it? How are they going to get clinical partners to run
Yeah.
studies on it so they can actually have the statistics and the data to back up their claims? How are they going to convince the end user, whether that be a patient or or a consumer, to use that technology? But then further upstream, if it's a patient, how are they going to convince the provider or the technician, the healthcare person that's going to be implementing that technology, and then on top of that, how are they going to convince the stakeholder who's going to be buying that technology, whether it be a payer or a healthcare system or a doctor? And then from there, also, how do you convince, investors that this is a good bet and that their technology is going to work and that it's going to be integrated throughout that workflow I just described?
Mhm.
They're thinking about all of those things,
And then they
and
have
they're
to build a
worried about the
website.
technology, and they look at somebody like me, and they're like, okay, a
I
logo,
don't
a
have time for
tagline?"
you.
Yeah, like, they don't necessarily understand what branding is. They don't understand what a brand strategy is. They don't when we first meet, they do not see the connection between brand
Mhm.
strategy and how it can actually help them alleviate some of the pressure and
Yeah.
overcome some of the challenges that I just mentioned. That brand strategy and brand building makes it a whole lot easier to get buy in from all of those stakeholders I just mentioned. When I mean buy in, I don't mean selling your product, I mean winning people over so they
Mhm.
get on your team, so they use your product, so they implement your product, so they buy your product, so they invest in your project. And that's what brand strategy is all about. And that is kind of the educational piece. That's where my
Yeah.
background in education is helpful, actually,
Yeah,
For
yeah.
in
sure, yeah.
terms of helping these science founders understand how I'm going to help them lighten the load, how I'm going to help them convince all of these people
Yeah.
that they're a safe bet.
And I believe it happens especially because a lot of the founders, they are science, they have a science background. So of course, like all the things you mentioned, just think about like creating the product, the solution, the technology. Only doing this is a ton of work. But in the end, what brain is doing, brain strategy, marketing, creative work is helping to connect this amazing solution that they've been building, put the expertise in, into connecting this to the people who actually is gonna have access to it, is gonna
Yeah.
use it, is gonna invest in it, is gonna buy from it. Because without this work, you can have the most incredible solution ever. You can have the cure for cancer, but if you don't put it out easily for people to understand what they are getting, they might just think it's just another medicine, another treatment. They won't believe it. So it's a fine line that brain have, like said, like bringing some kind of trust, make sure like people understand the message there, and in all areas of the health tech company.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
also like I feel that like there's a trust in what they have done with their research. They have the data to kind of support everything that they have done. That sometimes they don't even believe like I have already everything. Like there's nothing more that I need to convince anyone. But the truth is that it's not exactly like this. And then you do the work that like basically like clarifies everything and put everything to place for the right people at the right time.
Yeah, I think the thing that people forget is that, um, there's a huge difference between a plan and a strategy, and
Mm-hmm.
strategy is about how you win.
Mm-hmm.
And brand strategy is really about how do you win the right people over to buy into your vision and your idea so that you can get it to market, get it to scale, get it to do the thing you want it to do to improve people's lives, improve people's health. And yeah, I mean, there's a whole psychology behind like science founders that I have no research to back myself up. I'm literally sitting in an armchair and acting like an armchair expert on this one. But I do find, and having spoken to many science founders, they're usually coming from engineering or health sciences, whether in
Mm-hmm.
like a PhD and or MD trajectory. And a good portion of their success professionally has come from demonstrating over and over and over the things that they can do and the things that they know. Like I'm going to study really, really hard. I'm going to get these scores on these tests. I'm going to demonstrate and show all of my research. I'm going to get into these hospitals. I'm going to do more research. I'm going to publish. All of those things is like sort of this exposition, all of the things, all of the knowledge they have and all of the things they can do. It's literally their own features and functionality that has
Yeah.
allowed them to succeed in those specific fields. But the truth is, in entrepreneurship, that's not how you win. Like what you learned in med school, what you learned in your PhD program is not necessarily what's going to let you win in entrepreneurship. Features and functionality of your product, the science that backs up those features and functionality have to come second to a much more human-centered story and sort of the reason why you wanted to fix this problem in the first place. For us,
Yeah.
what we do is, like, we know that science founders are super busy, and as we said, it's just tsunami after tsunami, so we do, like, a very intensive branding process that always starts with this initial mandate, which is what we call the brand vitals check, and it's, like, my favorite thing to do in my job because it's a really intensive interview with founders. We do an audit of what they have when it comes to their website, their branding, and whatnot, but one of the first questions I ask them is why did you get into this racket? Like, why are you doing
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
And 100% of the time, they start telling me a story. And it's a story that comes from a personal experience they have had with ill health or a family member that has had ill health. It may be a professional experience, like their experiences they had with patients or what they were seeing in these healthcare systems that was broken. And these stories are emotional, they're deeply moving, and yes, they're saying it in the very safe space of our brand vitals check,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they are incredible and important stories. And even though I've researched their product, it's I know what it does. I
Mm-hmm.
finally understand their business when they tell me that story. And then the
Yeah.
funniest thing, and again, this happens, well, 80% of the time, is that the next thing I ask is, "What's your value proposition?" And they say, "Well, we're able to reduce wait times, or we're able to, you know, improve detection rates by this, this, and this, and this." And I'm like, "Wait, hold on. What happened to that
To
story?
this. Yeah.
Where's Where are you incorporating elements of that story into your value prop? And they truly do not see the value of that personal experience. A lot of them don't think it's important. Or I should be more compassionate. I think some of them also almost think it's like it doesn't have value for another reason. Like they don't think it, and they're it's also often sad stories. And so like
Uh-huh.
they don't want to exploit it or leverage it to sell a product. And that's where we have to have a little bit of a tete-a-tete, because you have to figure out how to express your purpose, and science does show that that's through storytelling. So how do we tell your story? How do we capture your purpose? How do we incorporate that into your value proposition? How do we create value propositions that communicate that purpose to each stakeholder, because it needs to be calibrated to each audience? And how do we condition you as the founder to remember that you should always lead with purpose and let the science back it up? That is like the core message I'd love to get out to science founders. Your story actually matters, and it's because it's the story and your purpose that is going to drive your business forward in terms of getting all of those people engaged, in
Yeah,
terms of connecting, engendering trust, getting them to engage, and getting into buying in to your mission.
and the way I see it's that because of the backgrounds they have, like I said, they might be engineers or coming from, science career, so the academic career as well. So a lot of their lives has been on showing the work, showing like this huge amount of work and study you put together. And this is what was valued in their careers as like, yeah, the more I see it, the more value you have. And usually in these spaces you don't have that much of this personal touch, or your personal
Mhm.
story matters less than the research and study you are putting together when you are like in this more academic scientific space. And we as communicators, we think the other way around. We know like the stories are way more interesting and more important for people than all this like data and scientific studies and research. Like they are really really important, of course, to back up everything. But we know, we as humans, we connect way more to stories than we connect to data. And that's
Yeah.
why for data you have people that are specializing reading data, understanding data, because it's not natural for us. Yeah, we were born in, we grow as humans as being around stories, and we learn around stories. And I feel like this work you're doing is awesome because, of course, you help them to see, look, this story you have, that was the reason why you put this company together. This is actually help you to, let's say, sell more or promote your brand, or help your company to succeed even, because this is what going to attract other people interested in. And this could be people that are going to be part of our team, that's going to help you build the product. It could be investors that are going to align with your story. And of course, we know you have all the scientific research to back you up. So we're not afraid of
Yeah.
this. We want to make
Yeah.
sure like we know this is covered. We just
Yeah.
want to make sure like we can actually get people interested, get people in. Like I said, winning, you know, people over by the story, by what is that piece of differentiation from that, by them from other companies. Because there's a lot of like smart health tech companies with smart founders doing some groundbreaking technology and products, but we rarely get to actually see them, because probably they were advertised or showed to us as, let's say, less sexy than actually it is. And the story
Yeah.
helps to be interesting, to be like attractive, to be like to resonate with other people.
I think it's really important that people express their purpose and then also think strategically about how they're going to express that. Like,
Hmm.
some people have told me some really, really personal stories. That is sacred to them. We don't
Yeah.
want to exploit it and go over the top. You don't want to walk into an investor meeting and start being super emotive. So, part of the brand strategy is figuring out how to craft a narrative that's going to work for each audience, and also craft a narrative that you, as the founder, are going to feel comfortable
Sure.
saying and doing, right? There's a delicate balance there. So, and it's also speaking to your audience is really important. Like, when my 5-year-old is going to ask me about where babies come from, that story is going to be very different from the not like the uncomfortable conversation I'm going to have with my 15-year-old that I'm really not looking forward to, but no, I have to have, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same topic. My values and my sensibilities are infused in both stories and in both uncomfortable conversations for me, but they're calibrated to the audience of a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old. In the
Yeah.
same way, you have to be aware of who you're talking to and when you're talking to them and how many points of contact you've already had with them. That is a critical point of business development. The other thing I would say, a lot of founders have said to me stuff like, well, investors, they're worried about scalability and ROI. And I'm like, yes. But I actually would like to talk to more investors about this because I'm sure that's what they're asking those founders. But
Hmm.
the VCs and these investors are also looking at that founder and going, does this person have the grit to push this business
Yeah.
forward? Does this person have like do they have the personality and the
Hmm.
vision that's going to get them through and get them to push this business forward? And when you articulate your purpose to a VC or to any kind of investor, if you figure out a good way of expressing that to them, that is engendering trust in you just as much as the
Yeah.
science and the data that you're going to show them. Let's all assume that your product, that you have the science to back it up. Let's all
Yeah.
assume that you are an expert. That's, I mean, hopefully a given. Of course, you're going to show that. It just doesn't come first. Don't bury your lead. The lead is your purpose.
Yeah.
Start with that, back it up with science.
And this trust
Yeah.
as well is what is going to actually get investors and VC to ask the other questions about, like,
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
other things that matter to them. But they need to
Yeah.
first see what you have and see, okay, that might be worth investing. Let me now dig deep and see in terms of numbers what we need to see if it matches.
Yeah.
But this trust
Yeah.
is the first thing.
People always say like when they are backing somebody, they're mostly backing the founder. They like the things that they have, but like, can I trust this person? Because like
Mhm.
they know that the role won't be easy, and especially like if you have the drive, if you have the passion, like you're not just doing this because you're looking for a quick exit. You're looking for a way to actually impact people. I feel like that this kind of gives the credibility that also supports the brand, supports your pitch and anything that you're trying to do to make the business grow and survive. But
Absolutely. Yeah. And, like most investors aren't complete sociopaths. They're going to want to feel good
Yeah.
yeah,
about who they're investing in. If they make a smart investment that also helps to save lives, like that's a huge win for them,
Yeah.
right? So, like that's part of the sale. Like they want to be heroes in their own business too. And when you get them on board to this amazing technology that's going to revolutionize a very specific aspect of healthcare, that makes them feel good. Why wouldn't it? So it should. So I think that when we part of that process, especially with our brand vitals check, is kind of, yeah, getting people to sort of realize, no, 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 this purpose is really important. They have it. It's almost like this little secret they don't wanna share, and I'm like, "No, no, no, that's your secret sauce, and
yeah,
you should figure out how to use it."
yeah.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
like after you convince them on putting more value on the value proposition that they have, and you start to work the brand. We know like we live in a fast world and in a kind of ever changing industry. So like how do you handle making sure like when you're creating a brand, you're creating a brand that is flexible, that can grow, that can shift depending on the needs of the business.
Yeah, so that's where the business development and the business vision have to kind of come into play when we're building out that strategy when it comes to brand. So we have to look at, okay, where are you right now in terms of your business? And where do you want to be in a year, 5 years from now? I only
Mhm.
do 5 years because 10 seems very overwhelming.
Yeah,
But,
it is.
and they've got so much on the go. I mean, again, it goes back to purpose. Your purpose isn't gonna change. You might have to figure out different tactics. You might have to come up with a different playbook as the market shifts.
Mhm.
But when you're anchoring it in a strong narrative and a clear vision for the problem you wanna solve, then being agile is, uh, is quite easy. That said, like, it's more from an execution point of view that we look at agility, right? Like, we'll say, "Okay, let's build a website, and we're gonna give you the basics here, but we're gonna create an infrastructure for when you have more products down
Mhm.
the list." We might even do that with visual branding. We've done that with a couple of brands where we're like, "Well, here's your here's how you're gonna brand your" if you're gonna create, like, your master brand, and then if you have separate different products, here's what that's gonna look like for the ones you have, and then this gives you a strategy for the ones that are coming down the pipeline. So those are more practical execution in terms of staying agile. And again, a lot of companies, like, they haven't taken the time to do this for good reason, they're busy. But when you start to archive your brand strategy, when you start to create these documents and these guidelines,
Mhm.
what you are essentially doing is creating benchmarks that you can measure, and you're identifying key metrics that you can then start collecting data on. So you can, once you build out your brand strategy, you can start experimenting with your branding and marketing a lot easier because you have benchmarks and metrics. And so we really encourage our clients to take the guidelines that we have and take the tools that we have and to revisit it, um, at least annually to see, is this messaging in line with what my audience is looking for? Or as I've been talking to these different stakeholders and as I've been talking to these different people, what have they said about my company? What have they said, got buy-in for them? The more and more you start studying your audience, you start studying your customer, then the more and more streamlined and effective your branding and your marketing will be. So, and that's an
Yeah.
ongoing process. But it is an art, but there is a science to it. So you got to kind of create the strategy and then adapt it as you go.
Yeah.
Did that
Yeah.
answer the question?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So, basically, like the strategy helps to have as a guideline for all the future,
Mhm.
um, the derivation developments of the brand, like brand and marketing actions. So it's less about having the current logo as the definitive version forever is going to be just logo, but the strategy, helps the brand to evolve when it's needed, but still be true to what is its essence and
Mhm.
what actually it values as a brand and what it stands for.
Yeah, I mean, the practical application of that is as well is, when we build our brand strategy and then we often do website and brand and collateral, but then we will, work with other organizations like Mo Studio, who's like, okay, this company is now ready for a video. Well, when you guys get our brand
Hmm.
strategy and you see our website, it lightens the load for the businesses we're helping, right? Because you're already picking up on the tone, you're already picking up on the narrative. You see you're picking up what I'm putting down basically. Like, you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
Basically,
it.
that's it.
And it means that the business owner or that marketing team doesn't have to, you know, go back and forth with all sorts of edits and ideas because they've given you, like, pretty much, like, their personality, like, they've shown you who they are, and now you can take it and run with it. So in terms
Yeah.
of scaling and being agile with regards to your business, if you're a small team and you don't have, like, an in-house marketing person, well, your brand strategy is gonna help that in-house marketing that in-house marketing person when you do hire them. If you are working with contractors, like Most Studio, like BraveTale, or like our website side of it, that brand strategy is again streamlining the communication, showing us who your business is. Brand is really like the personality. If the business
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
person, what would it be? Uh, it, it just makes everything easier.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, like,
it's
you
actually
called your kind of your initial conversation kind of the vital check. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, like, the brand strategy is the vital, let's say, document that basically
Mhm.
all the creative and communication decisions, they are based, and they should make sure like that anything that we do aligns completely with those. So like as you said, like we whenever we have something, like a lot of times we ask like, do you have any branding? Do you have a style guide? Do you have a tone of voice? No, we're like, okay, this is probably going to be a little bit harder than initially like it could be, because a lot of
Yeah.
times like each person, they have a slightly different view of the company. So if there's nothing structured that is well known by everybody in the company, a lot of times you have different perspectives. So when you start doing the work, you ended up having like feedbacks that are like, oh, I think that is a little bit more like this, and I think that we are a little bit more like that. So having this is definitely like something that it's really important, because everybody feeds from the same source.
yeah,
Yeah. The collateral that we build out from those brand strategies are, you know, it isn't even about like front marketing. It might be or consumer based marketing. It might be like helping the founders figure out how they want to talk about their product on a podcast, how they
mhm.
want to, how they want to engage with people at a networking event. Like it is quite amazing what you can do once you start anchoring your business in the narrative that communicates your purpose and then also communicates, yes, the features that like what your solution does. Yeah.
That is awesome. And Kelly, one last question. I don't want to extend because I know we could be like for hours here. And yeah, so I want to ask you, like, if a founder or marketing leader listening to this episode takes away just one thing about health
Okay.
tech branding, strategy, what should it be?
Okay. So everything I've said, marketing people are crying with joy already, I can tell you. Or they're like, I don't need to explain anything to
Yes,
them. I'm just saying what they already know to be true.
I can confirm that.
What I would say to health tech founders. Okay, so this is a little bit goes behind the curtain in terms of my purpose.
Yeah.
Like we got to be honest here, like science isn't really winning right now in all sorts of places.
Hmm.
And in health, we're seeing that pretty profoundly, and it's frightening. And there are a lot of reasons for it. It's complex. But science leaders, and I would include science founders in health tech to be those people, are not communicating on a human to human level. And it is incumbent upon you, if you want science to win, if you want your business to win, if you want to help those people, you're going to need to start pushing your purpose and speaking on that human level first, because things are getting dire and we need you to do that. And that's how you're
Hmm.
going to win. That's how science is going to win. That's how your business is going to win. And that's how we're going to get more and more people to buy in. And don't be afraid to get personal or to speak on a human to human level. Your purpose is important. Your story matters. Tell it. And that's how you're gonna win.
That's great. So powerful. Love that. So
I know it sounds a bit cheesy, but it
no,
is
no,
true.
Yeah, it is true. So
I
what can
don't
you
think it's
do?
easy at all. I feel like that's it. It's true. If that's true, that's what we want, like, other founders to hear. We want them to
Yeah.
get that. And I agree 100% of this. Thank you so much for sharing experience with us, Kelly. We loved learning about the ways BraveTale and you has been facilitating this connection between brands and humans, like a lot of things that we talked here in the health tech space. And if anyone watching or listening to us want to connect with you, where should they go?
I think the easiest way is just to connect with me on LinkedIn. Yeah, I'd love to talk
Uh,
to them. I want to hear
that would
their
be great.
story.
That
Yeah.
would be great. Awesome. So, thank you for joining us. Subscribe to keep up for next episodes. And if there is someone you'd like to see in our podcast, let us know at cht@moe.studio. See you all to your next episode.